The prompt for day 4 is about your happy place. Now, my happy place happens to be at the seaside, and that's what inspired the topper for these particular books. I made them out of some gorgeous fabric that I found years and years ago. It's a cotton fabric, and it has these wonderful beach huts on the front. And aren't they fantastic? But also, you can cut them out and layer them on top of other fabric that's rather sweet. Like, for example, these little squares of pre-quilted fabric that I found on the internet, and I just layered mine up with a little bit of lace underneath it and then just slow stitched around it in my own time and really enjoyed the process. Now I'm going to make a few more today, and I'm going to show you how I did that. And what I did was take some handmade paper. I normally have this in A4, but I want to make a slightly smaller journal today. So what I did was cut all of my A4 sheets into halves, and then I folded them exactly in half. So I scored them first and folded them, and I'm going to use those as pages. Now this is the quickest and easiest journal you'll probably ever make. There's no sewing involved. It's literally just gluing. So it's really nice and easy to do if you've never made a journal before. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now what I did was look at all these gorgeous little beach huts, and I picked out the ones that I liked and the fabric that I liked that was already quilted. I cut out my little beach huts and I just cut around, leaving a little bit of an edge because it's on this like beige coloured, creamy coloured fabric, and I just cut around so that there was a little bit of a border, and then I was able to stitch around that. And I just used a basic polycotton thread and just stitched all the way around the little beach hut using a running stitch. So it's really, really simple to do. The fabric was already quilted, so it feels absolutely gorgeous to touch. It's just that nice amount of puffiness that feels just really lovely to touch. So it's fantastic for putting on the front of a book because it's very nice to feel. Now I did go around the edges of this one and just snipped off a few of the threads. I personally don't mind a bit of fraying. In fact, to me, I quite like that. I like the shabby chic sort of look. So I didn't bother doing any stitching around the edge, but you could easily do some stitching around the edge of it to stop it fraying. You could use fray check, or you could seal it completely with some trim on the outside. With this one here, I just did a little blanket stitch all the way around, and it turned out I really liked that look, so I did quite a few more of those. Now for the book itself, like I said, I just folded in half some pieces of paper, and these would be A5 pieces of paper because they're exactly half the A4 sheets that I had originally. And I took about 10 sheets and just folded them in half, and then I used some glue to make a sort of pocket for each page. So I just put the glue around the side edges and the bottom edge, and I left the top edge without any glue on so that I can fit a tag in the top there as well. Now you could do this by just covering the entire sheet in glue and then sticking it on, but I like to have a little pocket there to put my tags in because I really like to journal on top of tags. I think they're really versatile. It's nice because you can pop a few in your bag when you're out and about. And because this is my seaside holiday journal that I'll be taking out and about with me, I thought it would be really useful to have those tags as well. This is lovely handmade paper, and I will be using it to watercolour on as well. So we'll see how well it takes watercolour at some point. You'll be able to see that on my other channel that's hosting the 30-day challenge. So feel free to pop over to that channel and you'll be able to see all the other things that I've been doing for the 30-day challenge. So all I do is pop some glue on every single folded page like that, and then just layer them up and just keep going until I've finished all of those pages and they're all stuck together. Now I used an acrylic white glue, which I think is art glitter glue. But when I did a few of the other ones, I tried PVA. That did work, but it did buckle the paper a little bit, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I also tried an all-purpose glue, which seemed to be a solvent-based glue, and that worked really well, but it did get a little bit seepage on the outside, and that did make it go a little bit sticky. And then finally, I also tried a glue stick, and that worked remarkably well. And it's also a very cheap option. And that was the Oohoo glue, the one in the yellow stick. And that worked really well for me. So I think it would just depend on how long you want it to last. I don't know whether this will last a long time, but I'll let you know over time how it goes. So I've got them all layered up there. Now I'm using the same acrylic glue that I used to hold the pieces together, and I'm just using a little bit of open weave, very light fabric. This is actually muslin fabric. It's the sort of stuff that people make those little burpee cloths out of. And I just tore a little piece off and then added some acrylic glue to the spine there. And then I'm going to wrap that piece of fabric over the top of it, and that's just going to make sure that the spine is well fused. Now, you probably don't need to do this step, to be honest, but I just want to make sure it's nice and secure. So I'm adding that little piece of fabric onto the spine with the glue, and that's just going to secure it in place. Make sure that the fabric is well pressed in place. Make sure that it's stuck to every single sheet. And I just use my nail there. But if you don't like the feeling of glue on your fingers, like I don't, you could probably use a pair of gloves or maybe an implement like the back of a pencil or something like that, or maybe a bone folder. Just make sure that that's well stuck down. So I'm just making sure that my fabric's all the way stuck. And then what I'm going to do is add the hard covers. I'm going to have a recycled board cover on the front and the back. And then the front one will have the slow stitch top on. Now I'm just double checking here that my tags go into all of the pockets, make sure that it's not stuck. And also that reminds me that that's the top of the book, so that when I'm sticking my topper on, I don't accidentally stick it on upside down. I'm going to use the solvent-based glue for the front of the book. So I'm going to just use some of that down the side, the bit that's going to be closest to that fabric. And also I'm still using some of the acrylic glue as well. Just got to make sure that my nozzle is unclogged first. So I put plenty of glue on because I want to make sure that that's well stuck down. And I put this so that it protects all the pages. So I want to make sure that it's right on the edge of the page so that none of the pages are sitting proud of that cover. And I'm going to do the same on the back. I'm just going to add some of the solvent-based glue, which is it's called a 3-in-1 craft glue, I think, and this one's really good, but I actually used a different one when I was sticking the pages together. But, you pick your own glue if you know which one's the best that you can get hold of yourself. So I'm just adding a little bit more glue there. I want to make sure it's well stuck down, and then I put the back cover on as well. Then to add the slow stitch topper on the front, I'm just going to add some of the 3-in-1 craft glue all over the front. Make sure that it's nicely spread out. And then just stick the topper directly on the front of the book. Now I could, of course, add one on the back as well, but I decided not to do that. I'm just leaving my back cover completely bare at this stage. I might revisit it at some point in the future, but I think for now I'm just going to leave it bare. It's the front cover that matters anyway. At least then I know which is the front of the book. If you're going to do a little blanket stitch or seal the edge of the piece of quilting, then it's a good idea to make your piece either slightly smaller or slightly larger, depending on what you're doing. I found when I did the blanket stitch that it actually made the piece slightly smaller and it sort of reduced the size. So I made sure that my pieces were a bit bigger than the board. And I think if you're going to be adding binding onto the edge, that might actually increase the size of it. So you might want to make sure that the initial piece is a little bit smaller. I don't know, you'd have to play around with that. So just make sure that your topper's well stuck down, and then how fabulous does that look? You can get a tag in every one of those pages. Do remember to give me a thumbs up and let me know if you enjoy this or if you want to make one of these yourself. And remember to head on over to the other channel. Now these are all the other ones that I made, and I did realise that the little books that I've got available for the challenge, these fold out ones, are absolutely super because you can use them as individual pages or as one large page, which is almost like a map. Well, that's the perfect size for these little toppers too. So I went ahead and made a couple more of those. So I've got several of these books to play with now. And also one of these map books too. And I'm going to be making some more because they're a little bit addictive, to be honest with you. So do give me a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Let me know if you're joining the challenge. Take care. Bye. It'll be a great book for taking out and about. So hopefully it gives you some inspiration for something to do on your day 4, which is your happy place too.